Welcome to Doctor's Housecall. This is your chance to get in gear with Dr. Gear, a duly trained naturopathic medicine doctor and doctor of chiropractic, board certified in family medicine and minor surgery. Brought to you by Payson Health and Wellness Center at 801 East Highway 260 every Tuesday afternoon from 5 to 6, live on KMOG. You can call in now and speak to the doctor at 474-2427 with any questions, or after the show, call Dr. Gear during regular office hours, 474-7409.
Well, good evening. Welcome to Doctor's House Call. And once again, we invite your phone calls at 474-2427. Tonight, back or neck pain. If you're born with it, or is it an injury? Dr. Gear can tell you in seconds. He makes the pain go away with no drugs, no surgery. You're magic. Good evening, Dr. Gear.
Hello, Mike. Hello, everybody out there in Radio Land. We have with us today Dr. Wyrick here. He's going to be discussing some topics that are very dear to him called anti-aging. And we have one of my patients here from Phoenix who just happened to come up today because he said he needed my help. And his name is Steve. And Steve, welcome to the show. I'm so pleased, so utterly pleased that you decided that you would like to help people here in the Payson area and around the world that are listening to this show know what your experience has been getting health care from our type of approach. And it started how long ago, Steve?
Yes, it started like 16 years ago.
And your boss, a friend of yours, brought you in. And what kind of work do you do?
I'm in the construction field, so we use all the safety measures, but yet, there's times when things will happen.
You do a lot of heavy lifting too, don't you?
Yes.
A lot of strong back work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when you came in to see me the first time, you showed me today what you were like, and it was pretty bad, wasn't it?
Yes. I had gone to different chiropractors in the valley, and so I wasn't getting any good results. And so when my boss, who, George, he said for me to go see Dr. Gear. And then finally, when I did, that was wonderful.
So describe what you showed me with your body language today, what you remember your body to be like when you first walked in.
Well, I was like walking like an old man. I was hunched over, and so and kind of didn't look good.
You're all bent over?
Mm-hmm.
And you had your head all cocked to one side, did you?
Yes, I did.
Because it was hurting so bad. So tell us more about where the pain was.
Well, since I had a fall in one of the jobs, the center of my back was the issue. I was having a hard time getting in and out of bed, getting going for the day. So I knew I had to do something.
What kind of fall did you have?
It was a fall like 6 feet from a platform and landed on my knees. I didn't even land on my back. That just the shock of everything.
Oh heavens! That shock went all the way up to the top of your head.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right. And that was quite a blow to your system. You felt pretty bad.
Yes, I did.
And so how long was it after that happened before you finally came in to see me?
I was going to different doctors in the valley, but I imagine it was like 3 months I was going through.
So you went to other doctors for 3 months, and you were in pretty bad shape still.
Yes, I was good for a day, and then the next day was still back the same.
So you got a little bit of relief from those other doctors' treatments for a day, and then you were right back like you were before.
Yes.
Wow, that's pretty disheartening. It made you start thinking life wasn't worth living.
Yeah, it was not looking good.
Then George said, "Come on, Steve, I'm going to take you over here and see my doctor."
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he's the one that he had seen me for some time, and I saw him, and he convinced me.
I believe that when he first came to me, he said he couldn't pull a bow. Was that him? Where he was trying to draw a bow and do a bow hunting
Yes.
for deer?
Yes,
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
He was having a hard time with that.
And so we had to fix his cervical and thoracic spine. The thoracic spine is the part where the ribs are. And get all that area better. And then he was able to pull a bow.
Mm-hmm.
And he got his deer.
That's
So,
right.
People don't understand how this all interacts with the spine. They think you just have to have back pain for the problem to be needing a chiropractor. But you found out you've had a lot of other types of problems over the years, and you've seen lots of my patients with problems as you've come into the office.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was a time when you were in an automobile accident.
Yes. So that was way before, and that was like in the 90s. But even that chiropractor, he told me I'd never be the same because it was a whiplash, and so that just added to the problem.
And it's been a while since you've been able to get some treatment from me because you were real busy with lots of other things. And today you came up and you said, I can't turn my head to the right nearly as good as I can to the left. And that was from that injury of 94.
Yes.
So I tell people all the time, you have these old injuries and you need to get enough care to get them taken care of, and then you need to stay on it periodically to keep it functional so that it doesn't grow back like it was, because once those ligaments have been stretched and torn, they don't come back all the way. It's like a rubber band that you overstretch, or a balloon. Once you blow it up, it never goes back to the way it was before. So once you have those really bad injuries to a neck where you tear up the ligaments, you have to stay on top of it. Keep touching it. Make sure it doesn't go back like it used to be.
Yes. And I'm very happy that, for one, I kept your phone number because I live in the valley, and but I know what you can do, what you've done for myself, and I owe my health to what you've done for me. I appreciate that.
That's awesome. Then just a month and a half ago, you told me that you were working off of a scaffold, was it? And you kind of bruised your knee.
Yes.
And then because of that, you started walking crooked.
Yeah. I thought it was going to go away. And so it's not going away, and I was starting to worry that something with the knee, and I knew I had to do something, so.
So I used to have a sign in my office called, "Maybe it will go away." Lots and lots of people think that. That's a human trait. We all think it'll go away. So today when you came in, we put you through the paces, examined you, and I found that your knee had a little bit of a twist to it. And you gave it a good adjustment, and you felt things change inside of it, did you?
Yes, I did.
And then prior to the treatment, when you were touching the knee, you knew a certain level of pain, a bruised feeling. And after the treatment, did that change?
Yes, it did. It changed significantly. It's still a little sore, but not like it was before. So.
No, when you hit your thumb with a hammer, you're going to expect it to be sore for a while.
Yes.
So that knee's got a little bit of bruise in it, but we did fix the twist in it.
Yes.
And we fixed your lower back and an area between your shoulder blades, and we got all that stuff all loosened up again.
Yes.
It feels a little bit better now, doesn't it?
It feels great.
A lot different. Make the trip worthwhile.
Yes, very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Boy, I'm so glad that you came and you decided you wanted to share all this with our listeners. It didn't take me very much talking to get you to agree to come, did it?
No, I'm delighted to have to tell my experience, and I tell it to my coworkers, because they can't believe how I'm 60, going on 61, and I can move like 30 or less. Still,
that's wonderful.
I really can.
You work out the Palo Verde right now, don't you? The nuclear plant.
Yes, we do the maintenance part of it.
Right.
Twice a year, outage. So.
That's fantastic. That's quite a big project out there.
Yes.
I remember when it was being built.
Mm-hmm.
All the hoopla about nuclear power.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're going on into solar power, aren't we? Moving forward.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really very, very interesting.
Yes.
Today we're most interested in bringing to the population here in Payson as well as elsewhere the information about anti-aging. And as you just mentioned, here you are 60 going on 61 and you're acting like you're in your 30s still. And you think that's due a little bit to the spinal care that you've had.
Yes, and I take care of my use of supplements and all different types of things.
Yeah,
watch my diet.
Feeding your body correctly.
Yes.
We've had some discussions on that in the past, haven't we?
Yes, we have. Yes.
That's wonderful that you're following through on all that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so pleased that you are doing that. Anti-aging, that's quite a subject. Dr. Wyrick has a specialty in anti-aging. And Dr. Wyrick, last show we talked a little bit about a thing called epigenetics. And I said to you, oh heavens, nobody knows what that is. And you said, oh, I can tell everybody what that is in words that they can understand. So now, Dr. Wyrick, I want you to help Steve understand what epigenetics is.
Okay, so I've taught these subjects in microbiology courses at Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine, at Grand Canyon University, and at Chandler Gilbert Community College.
So what is genetics?
Well, genetics is the science of the DNA, chromosomes, and genes that we were born with.
What's the difference between DNA, chromosomes, and genes?
Well, the DNA is the language of life and is found in all living cells. DNA is grouped into long strands called chromosomes. Simple cells like bacteria have only one chromosome each. People have 23 pairs of chromosomes, and each chromosome is divided into many genes. We get half of our chromosomes from our mother and half from our father. These same chromosomes are in almost every cell of our body and never change, with some minor exceptions of immune system B and T cells and some cancer cells. But different people have different chromosomes and genes, which is what makes us all unique creations.
Well, so Dr. Wyrick, chromosomes and genes are both made of DNA. Each chromosome has many genes. What do genes do in our cells?
Well, the genes tell our body how to make all the proteins and enzymes in our body, which includes all the various different tissues of our body and all of the enzymes that control the biochemistry in our body.
If the genes of our body are the same in all of our cells, how is it we have different kinds of cells and tissues?
Well, the answer to that is because of epigenetics. Now, that's a fancy word that comes from the Greek prefix epi, which means on. In other words, there is something on our genes that turns individual genes on or off. But different cells in different tissues have different genes turned on. They have different characteristics and functions in the body.
So what is on the genes?
Well, we don't completely understand all the control mechanisms, but we do know that biochemical processes like methylation reactions are important and that environmental factors are also important.
So it takes a chemist to throw words like methylation around, and you are one.
Yes, I am.
In it. So can you give an example in plain English so that Steve can understand what you're talking about?
Okay. When our parents' sperm and egg met, they formed a single cell, which then grows to become a baby by multiplying many times. As the embryonic child develops, the cells differentiate into different tissues. That is, some of them decide to be one kind of tissue, some decide to be another kind of tissue. Because of the epigenetic controls, as I said, we don't completely understand those controls. But paraphrasing Psalm 139, 14 and or 13 and 14, we are fearfully and wonderfully knitted together in the womb.
So what does that have to do with stem cells?
Well, stem cells are in the news a lot these days. And what stem cells are is they're only partially differentiated from the original one-cell embryo and have the potential to further differentiate under epigenetic control into different tissues later in life based on future epigenetic stimulus.
So differentiate, that means they can change like a chameleon?
Well, it's more or less a one-way street. Once they've decided that they want to be, say, a blood cell, they're committed to be some kind of blood cell, but there's different kinds of blood cells that they could still differentiate into as the body needs them.
So, I mean, even after a person is born, they can have all that change take place.
Yes, it goes on all the time. And it helps our body repair our tissues and is responsible for our ability to regenerate.
So give us an example of epigenetic changes in adults.
Okay, well, let's talk about how the body processes drugs. For example, someone who has never consumed alcohol can become drunk after drinking only a small amount of alcohol. But over time and repeated exposure, the person's tolerance increases.
Why is that?
Well, alcohol is an environmental factor that causes epigenetic changes that increases the expression or the activity of a particular gene that makes an enzyme in the body that happens to have a fancy name, CYP2E1. This is the gene that detoxifies alcohol and eliminates it from our blood. If there is more of the gene being made, then the alcohol is cleared from the blood faster and we have a greater tolerance for alcohol.
So that gene makes that enzyme that takes a drunk person and makes them not drunk.
Right.
So is that all that this enzyme does?
No, this enzyme also detoxifies acetaminophen or Tylenol, as well as a number of other small organic molecules, including acetone, which is found in nail polish remover. This means that the more often a person drinks alcohol, the more of this enzyme there is, and the less effective Tylenol is in relieving pain because it doesn't last in the body as long.
That's very interesting. You know, we want to talk about anti-aging on the show today. Does epigenetics affect the aging process?
Yes, there are many foods, herbs, vitamins, and environmental factors that have epigenetic effects on the aging process. Some of these epigenetic factors accelerate aging, and some have anti-aging benefits.
What's an example of an anti-aging epigenetic factor, Dr. Weyrich?
Okay, resveratrol is a substance that is found in red and black grapes and wines made from these grapes that has anti-aging effects caused by it epigenetically stimulating a gene called SIRT1. And by the way, this particular compound is thought to be responsible for what is called the French paradox, where French people seem to eat all the wrong things and still are in many ways healthier than Americans because French people like red wine, and red wine has resveratrol in it.
That means we should all become winos.
Well, to everything in moderation.
Okay, that's a good answer.
There's also other sources of resveratrol.
So what's an example of an aging accelerant epigenetic factor? Boy, those are big words, aren't they?
Okay, so things that make you age faster. Stress causes epigenetic changes that shorten life expectancy. Next week, I hope to talk about new biofeedback techniques that we will be offering at Payson Health and Wellness to combat stress and therefore give epigenetic benefits for anti-aging.
I look forward to that, Dr. Weyrich. You're an expert in anti-aging and also biofeedback techniques. You know, you got certified, board certified, as a health practitioner diplomat in the clinical science of anti-aging by the American Board excuse me, of Anti-Aging and There aren't that many people that have that qualification.
Yes.
That's a lot of initials here with you. ABAAHP. Sounds like some sort of a drunk place, you know. AA.
Yeah. Well, if you look at a lot of the medical doctors, they have even more initials after their names than I do.
That's for sure. And you were board certified in neurofeedback also.
Yes.
By the Biofeedback Certification International Alliance. So, you know, people, you can call our office at 928-474-7409 to schedule a free 15-minute consultation with Dr. Wyrick regarding anti-aging or stress reduction if you're interested in learning how to live longer, healthier, without problems. From a biochemist point of view. We also look at the foods that a person eats. We also look at the structure of the body and how it affects the circulation of blood. Because if you don't have good blood circulation, you can't get good chemistry into the cells, and you can't get the waste out. That's what causes swelling from injuries in the tissues, and when it happens in the spine, then it interferes with the blood flow to the nerves. And the nerves go to the blood vessels of the organs, and they work with the muscles of the blood vessels. And the blood vessels can't open and close like they should. Stress really does a number on the body when the spine is twisted at the bottom of the rib cage. Steve, today when you came in, we found that in your spine, the primary problem was in your mid-thoracic all the way down to the bottom of your thoracic spine. That's the rib cage area, from the middle to the bottom of the rib cages. And you felt that.
Correct, yes.
So when we did the manipulative surgery treatment on you, now that's not cutting surgery, that's non-invasive traction, thrusting of the spine to open up the spine and reduce the congestion. And how did that feel to you today?
That felt like a relief when I had that done.
You can feel blood flow?
Yes, I did.
I have so many people say to me, oh, I can feel my feet are getting hot. I feel the blood flow in my legs, finally, with that treatment.
Yes, yes.
So we have a phone caller. Hello, caller, you're on the air. How can we help you?
Hi. I was just wondering, Dr. Wyrick just was talking about using red wine to get that special thing called something like resveratrol. Does grape juice have that? And what kind of grape juice?
It's found in many dark purple fruits and vegetables. So the red wine would have resveratrol, whereas white wine would not.
That's why red and white,
if you don't want to drink wine, if you don't want the alcohol.
Yes. Okay. So yes, grape juice does have resveratrol in it, but it also is loaded with sugar, and most Americans have a problem with too much sugar in the diet.
And the skin and the seeds of the grape are where most of the resveratrol is found.
Correct. Which tends not to be in the wine as much, or the grape juice as much.
It's all filtered out of the grape juice.
Whereas the skin is included in the wine.
So what would you recommend to eat or drink in order to get this substance but not have alcohol?
As I said, various purple fruits and vegetables, which would include eggplant, just about any berry.
How about the beets?
I'm not sure beets have resveratrol in them.
Isn't there a supplement you can take, a pill?
Yes, you can also buy it as a pill that's been purified.
Okay, is it blueberries, you said any berry, blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, blackberries?
The purple berries.
Okay. Is that blackberries? Are they purple?
Yeah, I would say blackberries have some resveratrol in them.
Okay, but blueberries definitely. One time you said blueberries were one of the most nutritious foods to eat.
Yes, and that is because they're relatively low in sugars and very high in antioxidants.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Well, that's great, caller. Thank you for asking those questions. Now we have a little more explanation of the way to live a little bit longer by eating properly and getting that resveratrol.
You know, Doctor, I read in an article, I wish I had it right here in front of me, not too long ago, that somebody has worked on that and invented grape juice that doesn't have the sugar but does have the resveratrol in it. And I don't know if you buy that at a health food store or what, but there is something on the market along those lines.
I'm not familiar with that particular research, but it sounds very interesting.
I wish I had the article, but somebody has done it, and, you know, there is some grape juice out there that is healthy.
If you take grapes and you press them the old way, they have the skin in there, they have the seeds in there, and the seeds can get filtered out, but they're not bad for you. So if you would just take that mash of grapes, red and black grapes, and eat that, it's really good for you. And make sure your saliva mixes with it before you swallow it.
Yes, I think that the original process for at least French wine involved barefoot farmers treading in a vat full of grapes, squishing them up and mashing them around.
Steve, what do you think about that?
That sounds good to me. It's that's a natural way of getting what you need.
It used to be that we didn't have good water purification, and so everything that was pure had to have a little bit of alcohol in it, and so we had fermented foods, and wine was something that, clear back in Greek and before Greek times, beer also was quite important. That was a seed from the plants, Dr. Wyrick?
Yes, so wine goes all the way back to the time of Noah. And so, yes, it's been around a very long time.
So, Dr. Wyrick, what else is it about anti-aging that you learned when you went through this tremendous education process that you went through to become an expert in anti-aging?
Well, there's really two aspects to anti-aging. The first aspect is doing everything possible to control all the known degenerative diseases that we have that are caused by bad cholesterol clogging our arteries, high blood pressure, too much sugar in our diet. Controlling all of these known factors that contribute to chronic diseases is the first step.
What's bad cholesterol versus good cholesterol?
Well, that's a whole radio show in itself. Well,
just give us a short answer.
Okay, so cholesterol that is oxidized
wait. Cholesterol that is oxidized. What do you mean by that?
Another word, let me sort of mix metaphors here. So rancid cholesterol, which forms when you eat bad fats and don't have enough antioxidants.
Well, here's another one for you. What's that berry from a tree that makes an oil in the Mediterranean area? Olive oil, is it?
Yes.
If you let olive oil sit where air can get to it for a very long period of time, what happens to olive oil?
Well, any oil, especially the vegetable oils that are polyunsaturated, will turn rancid.
What does polyunsaturated mean?
Okay. You want to go into the chemical details?
No, I just want a short answer.
Okay. So we have saturated oils.
What does saturated mean?
Okay, let me explain that. So saturated oils don't have any double bonds in them, and they are not prone to be oxidized because the double bonds are what get oxidized. So Olive oil is a monounsaturated oil, which means it has one double bond, so it's a little bit inclined to get oxidized, but not as much as the polyunsaturated like corn oil, which have
poly meaning many.
Many, yes. But the thing about olive oil is the way it's made, it's not purified. They leave in all of the flavor, all the coloring agents, which includes a lot of vitamin E, which is a very powerful antioxidant. So actually, olive oil, if it's kept sealed, is literally good for centuries. They've unearthed from ancient sites sealed bottles of olive oil that was still palatable.
You know, I had some olive oil one time that had been sitting on the shelf in a bottle that had been opened and then was closed again, of course. But stuff tasted like paint thinner.
Yes. Rancid oils don't taste good.
And they're really bad for you, aren't they?
They are. And
they're poisonous.
And let me speak out against French fries for a moment. The French fries are cooked in these vegetable oils at high temperatures. High temperatures promote oxidation much faster. So,
could this be why French fries taste good when they're hot, coming right out of the fat, but then the next day they taste terrible?
Well, it depends. Sometimes I'm served French fries that taste awful right out of the restaurant's cooking vat, because some restaurants don't change the oil as often as others do, because the vegetable oil does become rancid over time.
Here's something for our listeners. When you go into a restaurant and you order French fries or something that's going to be deep fried, ask them, when's the last time you changed your oil? I do that, and if it's more than a day, I don't eat that stuff.
Yes, and so I just generally try to avoid fried foods in general because the oils in them are, at best, the kind that promote oxidation in the body, and at worst, they're already oxidized.
Oxidized, again, means
turning rancid.
Means it breaks up the double bond.
Yes, it adds oxygen to the double bond to make other chemicals like peroxides, which promote free radical. And I'm going way above what we want to keep this show.
Oh, we could really get into some deep stuff here.
Yeah, we really could.
You know what I don't understand? Recently, twice on a Sunday afternoon, I turned into Channel 8 PBS. They had a doctor on there talking about nutrition, selling his program, to help raise money for PBS. And the one doctor said the Mediterranean diet is no good. The only thing that's good about it is olive oil. And then the next program that was on, the guy says you don't want to have any oils. It causes high blood pressure. No olive oil, no vegetable oil, no oil at all. If you have high blood pressure, it's a mineral problem.
Okay, so that latter doctor was not, how can I be polite? He wasn't knowledgeable. Oils and fats, there are essential ones that we must have in our diet. So to say that we should not have any oils in our diet is saying we shouldn't eat things that our body requires.
No, he wasn't saying that. He was saying if you have high blood pressure, it's because of oil. You don't want to have any olive oil, vegetable oil, or anything else, and it's because of an imbalance in minerals. And so you need to buy his product, which takes care of all that.
Well, I'm skeptical. I didn't hear the gentleman, but I'm highly skeptical. From my point of view, one of the things that I do in my office is I do genetic testing, and it's well known that different people need different diets. And so if we do the genetic testing, I can produce a report that says, hey, you really need to go easy on the saturated fats because your body doesn't handle saturated fats well, or polyunsaturated fats, or you really need a lot of olive oil because your body really hums with olive oil. And so there's no one diet that anybody out there is pushing that is going to be the healthiest diet for everyone. You really need to treat each patient as an individual and customize their medical care based on that person's genetics.
I know that it makes it very confusing when you hear all this information. You know what I mean? That is counter to what you have heard before. Don't do this, don't do that, or do this. And it's always something new, and it always seems that somebody is trying to sell, some sort of product that goes with that, CDs and books and that kind of thing, It's just like, what can you believe? I think what you said about the genetic thing is very important because, as you said, everybody's different. And they're finding out more and more now with medicines, why certain medicines don't work with certain people.
Yeah, I talked about that tonight when I talked about the CYP 2E1. That's just an example of a number of genes that metabolize drugs. And some people metabolize the drugs very fast, and so the drug doesn't seem to work. Other people are very slow, and they overdose easily, and they have lots of side effects because the body can't clear that drug. And so knowing the genetics of the individual in the future is going to be required before drugs are prescribed.
Okay, so you can do that?
Yes, I don't know everything about all the drugs out there, but I do have extensive resources that list which enzymes metabolize which drugs and how different drugs interact. It's well known that if you take two drugs together and they are metabolized by the same enzyme, then you suddenly have problems with both those drugs, causing extra side effects because your body can't handle both of them at the same time. Whereas in other cases, one drug turns on an enzyme and another drug turns it off. And we have interactions with grapefruit. There are drugs out there that they say on the bottle, do not take with grapefruit, because grapefruit is an epigenetic modifier of the enzymes that metabolize that particular drug.
It's really confusing.
Well,
I think
it's really confusing if you haven't had the educational background like Dr. Wyrick's had. He's board certified in neurofeedback by the Biofeedback Certification International Alliance. He's board certified as a health practitioner diplomat in the clinical science of anti-aging by the American Board of Anti-Aging Health Practitioners. He's primary interest in internal medicine with a special interest in endocrinology. He's got his PhD in physical organic chemistry from the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. He's been practicing for 14 years as a naturopathic medical doctor, working with me most of that time. And I think he's letting you know that with the talk that he's giving you right now on this radio show.
I have a question. What is endocrinology? Is that
study of
hormones? Am I saying that right?
Endocrinology, study of hormones.
Oh.
So everything from thyroid to testosterone.
There's two types of glands in the body. There's an endocrine gland and an exocrine gland. An exocrine gland is your liver and your pancreas. They push enzymes into the digestive tract. Your saliva glands are exocrine glands. The endocrine glands are like the thyroid gland, the parathyroid glands, and even the pancreas makes insulin. And then the adrenal glands, those are all endocrine glands. The primary one is up in the head, called the pituitary gland. And so we test all of these things. We have a lot of education in the neurology and the chemistry that's involved in how the body actually works. Not how to quash a symptom, but how to fix a problem. And we do our very best to work with the people, types of doctors that the insurance company recognizes, so it'll pay for the lab testing, but there's a lot of lab tests that it won't pay for. So we do a lot of those tests. In fact, Dr. Wyrick has doing these testing. One of the important tests a lot of people don't understand is for heavy metals. to find out if somebody's got lead, cadmium, mercury, arsenic, or some other kind of metal in their body that's interfering with their epigenetics of their DNA. And it just screws things up royally. I know many years ago, I found a man who had been hit by a forklift in his ankles, and he wasn't healing properly. I checked his body tissues and found out he had lead poisoning because he worked in a 7-Up bottling plant. And he was in with all the trucks all the time. And at that time, there was a lot of lead in the fuel.
Yes,
so he was loaded with it.
Fork trucks in the warehouses, which typically are very poorly ventilated.
So I told the Industrial Commission this, and they had the toxicologist from the state of Arizona come in and testify against me and said it had no bearing whatsoever on the healing of his ankles, tendons. Dr. Weyrich, what do you think about that?
Well,
I just pulled this on you. Hadn't had any preparation on this one at all.
Well, I think that there are definite correlations between lead toxicity and healing, and I say that because I know that zinc, which opposes lead toxicity, benefits healing. And so if you have a lot of lead in your body, the zinc in your nutrition isn't going to do its job properly.
Yeah, they wouldn't allow me to use nutritional therapy on this man. That was 40 years ago now. Heavens, it's been that long ago. Steve, are we helping you understand a few things here?
It's all Greek to me.
It's all Greek to you. So we have to make it a little more normal talk. Well, we have other tests that Dr. Weyrich does. We have the IgG food testing, which we've talked about many times here on the show. We have telomere length blood testing. Telomeres. Dr. Weyrich, what's a telomere?
Oh, I was hoping to make a whole show out of that at some point.
Well, you will, but right now.
But basically, I talked about how chromosomes are big, long strands. Think of a chromosome as a shoelace. And at each end of that shoelace, you have a little plastic cap that protects the shoelace from fraying. Now, every time two cells split, it has to make a new copy of all the chromosomes, one for each of the cells. And those telomere end caps get a little shorter each time. And so one theory of why we age is as the telomeres get shorter and shorter, our genetics don't work as well. And eventually they get too short and the cell line dies, and we're entering what's called senescence. We're getting old. Now, the good news is that we are learning ways to slow down how long the telomeres can persist, and in some cases even help grow them a little bit longer. But we don't want to grow them too long, because the telomeres help protect us against cancer cells that are, quote, immortal and aren't regulated and just grow out of control. So it's a balancing act.
So we have another thing that you do here called advanced lipid profile blood testing. How's that different from the standard lipid profiles that we do, that we see?
Okay, so basically the standard profile looks at several components. It looks at triglycerides, it looks at high-density lipoproteins, low-density lipoproteins, and maybe a couple other things. And there are some correlations that have been done over time.
Wait. What's a lipoprotein? Is that a protein with a fatty molecule on it?
That is correct. That was a detail that I didn't think I wanted to explain to the audience tonight.
Well, we don't need to go on more than that. Just it's a protein with a fatty molecule attached to it.
Which, and part of the fatty molecule includes some cholesterol.
And we don't want that to go rancid.
And we don't want it to be rancid or oxidized.
Oxidized, right. Hey, we're learning something here, aren't we? Steve, are you getting some of this?
Yeah, it's coming to me now. Yeah,
all right.
That sounds
very good.
Yeah.
But additional study shows that there's more different size characteristics. It's not just the density of the lipoproteins, but it's the size and other certain genetic factors that all have been correlated with having a healthy heart, healthy cardiovascular system, or having an unhealthy cardiovascular system.
So that's what your advanced lipid profile is all about.
Yes.
Okay, that is advanced. Now, what is a SpectraCell micronutrient blood testing?
Okay, so you all know that the food that you eat goes into your blood and is building blocks for all and fuel for all the cells in our body. But here's the thing, just because you ate something doesn't mean that it got absorbed from the gut into the blood and then the cells properly absorbed it into the cell. Now, the SpectraCell micronutrient test actually looks at the nutrients that are actually in our cells. And so if the cell has good nutrients, then we're happy. If the cell is, for example, very low in vitamin B12, even though we're taking B12 supplements, we scratch our head and say, somehow we're not absorbing B12. Let's look into that and let's do something different so that our cells will have all the B12 that they need.
And that could be a lot of different things. There's so many different factors involved.
Including genetics.
And the IgG testing, because that builds up a mucus layer on the gut so that the gut can't allow the food to get into the bloodstream.
Yes, the IgG, and there's other tests we also can do that are relevant to the gut. The IgA testing, that's an advanced test that I, from time to time, recommend. We don't do it as often, but in some cases, that's also useful.
Exactly. There's 5 different kinds of IgG testing. Now, IG testing, rather.
Yes, IG is immunoglobulin,
right,
and they're given different letter names like A, D, M, and G.
So, and they all have different, we could make a show on each one of those.
Oh, yeah, we could.
So hormone testing, urine and blood. How come we need to test hormones in the urine and in the blood separately? And do we need to do just one shot, or is this, we need to get a whole series of tests? And how do we do that?
Okay, the first answer to your first question, some hormones are proteins. And like follicle stimulating hormone, FSH, or TSH.
Wait. Follicle stimulating hormone. What follicle is being stimulated?
The egg in females and the spermatogenesis in males.
Okay, so it's something in the ovary and something in the testicle.
It comes from the pituitary and goes to the target gonadal organs.
Gonadal, what's that mean?
Gonads are testes and ovaries.
Good, all right. Now Steve understands that.
Okay, so if it's a protein hormone, it doesn't come out in the urine. It has to be found in the blood. But the steroid hormones and thyroid hormones like T4 and T3 exist in the blood. They also exist in the urine. And we can get a lot more information for the same cost by looking at these hormones in the urine.
And so do we have a test for that?
We have multiple tests.
So we give that to them and somebody collects the urine over a 24-hour period of time?
Yes, usually I do 4 samples over a 24-hour period, which is more convenient than carrying a jug of urine around for 24 hours.
And also it tells you what time of the day it's happening.
Yes, some of the hormones, the cortisol, adrenal type hormones, we're interested in what's called the circadian rhythm, how the levels change over time during the day and night.
That has a lot to do with how somebody feels.
Yes.
Especially at 1 o'clock in the morning when their blood pressure goes up like crazy.
Or when they can't go to sleep at night.
Or they wake up and they can't go back to sleep.
And I was planning to talk more about that next week, actually, when we talk about stress.
That's another show.
That's another show.
Okay. Now we have saliva testing for genetics.
Yes.
How can you spit? How can you... I don't understand how spit can tell you about genetics. You want to tell Steve how that works?
Well, every body fluid in the body, every tissue in the body has copies of our DNA. And it's just convenient to take a Q-tip, basically, and rub it in your cheek and get some mucus saliva and send it off to a lab. That's the easiest way.
Hey, that's like the COVID-19 testing in the nose.
Yeah, it
Just
is.
stick that thing in your nose. Ooh, my.
But in the FBI and so forth, the crime labs, they can use any tissue. They use hair. If they get some hair roots, they can get DNA out of them. They use blood. Any tissue will do to find some DNA. But the easiest and most convenient is the saliva, or the buccal swab, as it's more precisely called.
And that's pretty accurate, huh?
Well, it's all DNA. It's all the same.
The answer is yes.
Yes.
It's pretty accurate. Okay. Then we have organic acid urine testing. What in the world? Organic acid. Does that mean your urine is organic, and so we're going to test it and see if it's acid or alkaline?
Well, far beyond that, there is a whole group of biochemical agents that are made in the body, things like acetate or acetic acid, propionic acid, many different organic acid products of our metabolism that are used, that we can look at in the urine and figure out what our biochemical balance is. We can look at how our body is making what are called neurotransmitters. We can look at how our body is handling the degradation of various pathways. It just gives us a view of how the body's metabolism is working and helps us look for problems.
So
Okay.
you've got a neurotransmitter test in the urine also.
Yes.
You just mentioned that.
Yes, so neurotransmitters are things like epinephrine, norepinephrine, serotonin, and others. And so the neurotransmitter test looks at some of the organic acids, but also some of the amino type compounds that are
amino.
okay. Many of the hormones, like epinephrine, are amino acids, which
What's
means
an amino
means they have a nitrogen group.
What does that mean?
It's a chemical structure that we break the chemistry in the body down into different classes of compounds that act in some ways similar. And so if you want details, you're asking me to give a biochemical lecture.
I want you to not be detailed. What is an amino acid?
It is
A protein.
It is an organic acid that also has an ammonia group on it.
Okay, that's the chemistry answer. What is the answer for Steve? Is it a breakdown of protein?
Some amino acids are used to make proteins.
Oh, I thought all amino acids came from proteins.
No. There are epinephrine, adrenaline, and so forth, dopamine. Those are amino acids,
Oh,
but
those
they
are
are
in the bloodstream.
They're in the bloodstream.
But not in the food.
They're made from food.
So the amino acid is a protein
no.
in the food you eat.
The amino acid is a small building block. It's very small, and protein is made by chaining together hundreds of amino acids.
Ah, okay.
And
that
the
helps.
genes tell us, or tell the body, what the sequence of different amino acids are needed to make each different protein.
Steve, did you understand that? Kind of, sort of?
Yeah, kind of, sort of.
All right.
Okay, the theme today was back or neck pain. Are you born with it, or is it an injury? And you can tell in seconds. How? I don't remember getting an answer to that. Like Steve's problem, was that something he was born with?
No, Steve injured himself. And Steve, how long did it take me to find your problem when you first came to me?
Well, when I first came to you with the x-rays, you said this is triggering this, and it's causing this. And no other chiropractor had told me, and it made perfect sense. So within minutes, you figured out what was wrong, what I needed.
That's what we hear from almost everybody, isn't it, Mike?
Well, that's, I guess, what you're talking about, how you can tell in seconds. And did he make the pain go away?
Yes, he did.
All right. That's what's
Yes.
important, right?
Yes, I use a phrase when I see him every time I owe my life to Dr. Gear, because prior to that, I knew I was not going to have a healthy life. I was going down.
I can't tell you how many people have been here on the program, including myself, who've said the same thing, Steve. So if you're out there and you're listening, don't let it go another day. Get a free consultation with Dr. Gear. All you have to do is give him a call, 474-7409, and set it up. Well, we're about out of time. If anybody has any calls, any questions we didn't get to, we have about a minute left. Call us right now at 474-2427. If not, then, well, get in and see Dr. Gear. He's right here. Like, Steve, you came from Phoenix, right?
I'm actually in Buckeye. It's out of Phoenix, so
Right.
I'm still a good 2.5 hours away.
Those of us who live here, we're so lucky.
Yes.
Because people come from California. They come from all over the state of Arizona to see Dr. Gear.
Yes.
And most of us, all we have to do is walk across the street, and we forget, how easy that is. So, once again, get your consultation. Get those problems fixed. You don't have to suffer with pain. You don't have to take drugs. You don't have to have surgery in many cases. I certainly found that out for myself. Surgery was recommended by several doctors, but when I got to the surgeons, they said, no, we can't help you. So, Dr. Gear was able to help me. He was able to help you. And I'm sure you out there listening, he can help you too. Give him a chance.
Thank you, Mike.
Quit suffering.
It's so true. We're here to improve your life, to feel healthy, younger, and vibrant from the inside out. We evaluate and treat all stages of life. As long as you're breathing, coming out of the womb, or going on to our Maker, we're here to take care of you. Infancy, childhood, adolescence, reproductive, climacteric, postmenopausal, and post-android. And what's that word, Dr. Warwick? Androsterone?
Andropause.
Andropause.
Just
that's
like
the word.
menopause.
So we're here for a reason, a season, and a lifetime. Mike, thank you so very much. We'll be here again next week, I hope.
Okay, and remember, a copy of the program available tomorrow at KMOGcountry.com, our website.
You've been listening to Doctor's House Call, aired every Tuesday afternoon from 5 till 6 p.m. To call Dr. Gear after the show during his business hours at Payson Health and Wellness Center, 801 East Highway 260, call 474-7409 or go to his website, drbobgear.com. That number again, 474-7409.